All right, welcome into the Five Guys of the Five Reasons YouTube channel. As is usually the case on Tuesdays on mobile. Alex Donno is comfortably in his home, so good for him. We will get to our topic today. This is more of a setup episode. We'll explain in a second. Before we do, though, I want to mention a great sponsor of the Five Reasons Sports Network. Make sure you set up on Better Edge. Go to betteredge.com. Use the code 5RSN. Get $20 to play. Yes, there are other places that you can bet in the state of Florida now, but they have VIG, which means that you're paying the book for nothing. You don't have to do that here. Also, you can find the line that you want in their marketplace, so shop around. See, the Panthers are 1.5 goal favorites tonight against the Bruins. If you don't like that, there are open orders in there that you can check out some of the other lines and maybe just get a different line with it. Although, actually, that looks pretty promising, that 1.5 goals at plus 130. That's not too bad. So check them out. Again, go to betteredge.com. Use the code 5RSN. Again, that's 5RSN. At betteredge.com. All right, let's get to this. And again, this is going to be a multi-part thing that we're doing here. The idea kind of came, not that this is that original, but I was watching Barkov do what he did the other night. He's been tremendous in this postseason. Obviously, he's been the Panthers' captain for a bit now. He's been sort of their longest standing, one of their longest standing players in their history in terms of being a consistent producer. And obviously, we can talk about what Verhaeghe does and what Bennett's done for them, and obviously what Reinhart did for them this year and Tkachuk. But Barkov's kind of the consistent guy out there on both ends. And then also this year, he's elevated in the playoffs, I think, in a way that he hasn't before. So, Alex, I was just thinking, okay, is he now a top 10 athlete in South Florida sports history, which some said, yeah, he's top 5 already. Well, okay, hold on a second. Some said, yeah, he's top 10. And some said, well, it's hockey. He can't be close. If we're to take out here, Alex, right, it's still a long list of 4 different teams. And I'm going to take out Inter also. Messi is unfair, honestly. I mean, there's not enough here yet. But I think when you look at the pro teams, I guess this is up to everybody's interpretation. For some, it's like the best guy who was actually here, which is like LeBron or Shaq, but they weren't here that long, especially in Shaq's case. And then there are others, like I see people saying Jeff Conine or Udonis Haslem, and they don't rank in terms of a performance production standpoint, but they're associated with their teams, with their franchises. How should we do this? I guess let's start there.
Well, I think your train of thought is similar to mine. I think longevity is very important because I'm thinking about guys who are candidates to be like on that Mount Rushmore, right? Athletes that you associate with South Florida, and I'm never going to, associate Lionel Messi in a way with Inter Miami that people would with Barcelona or the Argentinian national team. So yeah, you can argue he's the best athlete to like ever put on the jersey of a team down here. But, Lionel Messi is not ours in the degree that, Dwayne Wade was ours and Dan Marino was ours. So, like I see our guy Alfredo had put this in the chat before we got started that, you've got 2 current Miami Dolphins who are first ballot Hall of Famers, Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill. But it's like you don't associate them with the market. And maybe if Hill is here long enough, but right now I just don't associate them with the market. And in the case of Tyreek Hill, he won a Super Bowl at a different place. So like I just don't put them in the same conversation. I think you're thinking about players like Dwayne Wade, like Dan Marino, and Ethan, like Aleksander Barkov. He's very much getting into that conversation. And you mentioned, and I saw that comment on X as well from at least one person who was like, well, no, because it's hockey. So stupid. Like, even if you don't appreciate hockey, some of the people listening and watching this, like, I'm not a big auto racing fan, Ethan, but I acknowledge that, Max Verstappen, Michael Schumacher back in the day. My father was a big Formula One fan, Lewis Hamilton. Like, even though I may not appreciate auto racing, I do not deny that these guys are some of the greatest to ever do it, regardless of sport. I'm not a big tennis fan, but I acknowledge some of the greats who have come through that sport. The bottom line is with Sasha Barkov, the guy has been here now for a decade plus. He was drafted by the Florida Panthers in 2013. He's been the captain for the past few years. He has been the most consistent piece on this team. Nobody has been on the team as long as Barkov. And yeah, he's been a Selke Trophy winner, which also goes to show you this is a comparison you can make different sports, but you compare you compare him to a guy like Jimmy Butler, who obviously can be in that conversation as well. Because Barkov is an amazing two-way player, right? He's like the hockey equivalent, where he's a great defensive forward. That's what they give the Selke trophy to, two-way forwards. He's an unbelievable defensive forward and obviously a key offensive player as well. And he's one of the best players in the league right now, Ethan. And yeah, this guy has been here for 10, borderline 11 years. That goal that he scored, the game-winning goal in Game 4 to give the Panthers that 3-1 lead, was absolutely insane. One of the better individual efforts you'll see out there, the way he was able to cut through two defensemen and sneak that shot behind the net. I think obviously what Barkov is missing, and I know some people will scoff at this, like you'll never be able to put him into a Dwayne Wade conversation. Obviously, and I'm not taking anything away from Dwayne Wade, but anybody who would scoff at the Barkov comparison, there's probably a little anti-hockey bias to that. But at the same time, if the Panthers actually get the job done, Ethan, if the Panthers actually win, they're a ways away from it, but if they can actually win the Stanley Cup, if Barkov gets that Stanley Cup, I see no reason why he wouldn't be in that conversation as one of the greatest to do it down here.
All right, so let's talk about it in those terms then, as we're setting the guidelines going forward, and then I think maybe Thursday we'll actually hammer down on our top 10 list. I think we need to set a longevity limit here. So to me, I would say if you didn't play here 3 full seasons, I think it's hard to qualify you, because there have been some one-season wonders here. For sure, some 1 and 2 season wonders. I mean, there's been Hall of Famers that have been here 1 year. Mike Piazza was here not even 1 year. He was here like 1 week. And again, there are others who were here for a very short period of time. I mean, not that he would be on this list, but Lamar Odom was here for 1 year. It was a good year. There have been others who've come through for just 1 season. I don't think that we should do the 1 or 2 season stuff. I think 3 seasons feels about right to me, maybe 4. But I would say with 3, I mean, even if you were to 1 year legend Pudge, Rob's right about that. That would probably be tops. But I kind of feel like the 3 season, 4 season is about the place, which is kind of the Shaq spot, right? So it kind of depends if we even want Shaq on this list or not. Because if you go 4 seasons, it's no. If you go 3 seasons, we're going to have a conversation at least. So I'll go to this with you before we get to our other sponsor here. Should we have a championship qualification for this?
Well, if you did that, then you'd have to throw Dan Marino out, and how could you do that?
And Zach and Jason, right? And all the Dolphins,
right.
Other than Zonka. So we can't really do that, right? Like, do we need I can't even say a finals or a Super Bowl because they didn't make that either. I mean, Marino did, but Zach and Jason didn't. So I guess how much do we want to weigh team success into this? Like Pavel Bure, for instance, is a good example of this, right?
It's a great example, yeah.
I mean, he obviously
Roberto Luongo.
Well, Luongo and Bure. I mean, that's the comparison with Barkov.
Yeah.
Now, with Barkov, at least there's been a Stanley Cup Finals appearance. There's been more playoff appearances of late. How much should we take into account winning?
I think you have to. And the other thing that I want to take into account, and this is going to be, I might just have to use this as my personal criteria because this is harder to quantify, Ethan, but I feel like anybody who you put on this list, in my opinion, should be someone that you associate more with the Miami team or the Florida team that they played on than you do anywhere else, which would disqualify Shaq, I think. Because like you wouldn't immediately associate Shaq as the first thing you think of is Miami Heat, right?
Well, does it disqualify Braun?
I think it does disqualify Braun,
but not Jimmy.
Yeah, and that's a great one. Like Jimmy has been here 5 years, but I associate Jimmy more with Miami than any of the other teams he played for, and I think most people would.
I'm trying to think of some of the other teams now. Luongo, I guess you would, even though he had some years in Vancouver for sure. I think maybe hockey people might associate him just as much Vancouver. In the basketball space, I mean, obviously, certainly Dwayne is here. And then I guess
like Zoe and Timmy, if that you would associate them here.
Yeah, well, I think Timmy would be a split for most people, but I think it's close enough.
It's close enough.
And the Marlins thing is tough because you've got, I mean, Stanton, I guess. Are we talking? I mean, Gary Sheffield. Who's Gary Sheffield most associated with? The problem with the Marlins is most of these guys.
Yeah.
ended up getting associated somewhere. I mean, let's be honest here. Is Cabrera even most associated with Miami?
I mean, I think only to Miami fans. I don't think to anyone else.
Right. Now, can it be came up now? See, again, we're going to twist the rules here a little bit, and then we'll get to our spot. Can it be someone who either is associated here or started here? Is that a
maybe?
Fair,
yeah.
Is that a fair?
Because I think there's like for Miguel Cabrera, I think there's a lot of value with the fact that he started here and he won a World Series here when he was 20 years old.
Right.
I think that might make me feel like Cabrera, I could allow it, like I could make an exception for him.
No, I get it. All right, well, let's get to our sponsor, and then we'll kind of outline how we're going to do this for Thursday. Hey, it's Ethan Skolnick for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We've got a great new sponsor that fits with us perfectly. It's called jerseys305.com. That's jerseys305.com. This is your home for dead stock and vintage jerseys from the Heat, Panthers, Dolphins, Marlins, and the other local teams. Their mission was born from a passion for wearing jerseys of the old styles and the past players. Jerseys 305 aims to make every fan stand out from the crowd with unique pieces that you don't commonly see anymore. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, but not today. And Jerseys 305 was created by the fans, for the fans. They're diehards just like you. In fact, they're probably listening to this episode right now. So check them out, Jerseys 305, their partnership with 5 Reasons Sports, celebrating with a 10% discount on the next purchase using the code 5 at checkout. Unlock your exclusive savings on the entire vintage collection. All right, make sure you check them out because a lot of the people we're talking about are part of that jersey collection. So check them out. And again, they've renewed now for another month, another 4 months. We appreciate Jerseys 305. Make sure you check them out. They got a lot of big stuff coming on the way as well. They might be linking up some other stuff with the jerseys here. All right, so let me ask you this before we close, and then Thursday we'll come with our lists, okay? Marino and Wade are going to be 1 and 2, right? In some order? Is that where we're headed?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, for as much as I'm like, I consider myself more of a football guy, I actually give Wade the edge because of the championships, right? And obviously, like, people will say it's not really Marino's fault he didn't win the championships, but it's still it's got to count for something. So I give the slight edge to Wade, but Marino's right there. All
right. So the more interesting conversation is going to be ending up who ends up number 3, right? Like that's where we're headed pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we'll see. Obviously, Dwayne should be 3 based on his number, but we'll see who ends up 3rd. All right, so here's the way we're going to do this, and we would like others to get involved in this. We'll be promoting this over the next couple of days. Make your own top 10 lists. We're only drawing from the 4 teams that have been here the longest. So Panthers, Dolphins, Marlins, and Heat. Try to create a mix of some of the teams if you can. Obviously, we understand that some of you are Heat fans only, and we're going to have Karan Butler at number 10. But I mean, anyway, regardless,
Mario Chalmers, maybe
Mario Chalmers number 3. But put your lists together. We'll do some comparison here, and then we will have some kind of a prize for you guys on Thursday. So Donno and I are going to do our own lists. The only restriction we're setting here is must have played with one of these teams for at least 3 seasons. That's it. 3 full seasons. Yeah. The rest of it, whatever your qualifications are, like Alex was talking about, this idea of, maybe starting here or being associated here. You can make up your own rules on that. But we're going to start with a 3-season thing just because, again, I don't want to be throwing Pudge Rodriguez in the mix here and that kind of stuff. But if you think Jeff Conine is the 3rd greatest South Florida athlete ever, more power to you. We'll go with that. All right, Alex, we'll have more content on the channel later today. We appreciate everybody. Check out the latest episodes of 5 on the Floor. Subscribe to the OnlyFins and Off the Floor Discords, and we will see you again Thursday afternoon. Have a good one, everyone. Get your lists in.